Okay, so we know that companies in Fallout, like Mass Fusion for instance, were dumping nuclear waste. Despite the name, Carl Oslow's Mass Fusion company provided the more wasteful form of nuclear energy, nuclear fission power, to the people of Boston. As such, locations like the Mass Fusion disposal site exist as a result of the company dumping its waste. Now the thing is, some types of nuclear waste, like transuranic waste from the production of nuclear weapons, can take a really long time to break down and become safe. You may wonder, well, how long is a really long time anyway? And depending on the concentration of radioactive waste, it could be for up to 10,000 years. But funnily enough, humans don't live for 10,000 years. This causes some issues. Issues like how would future generations know where it was safe to build and where it wasn't? In the case that our spoken and written language dissolves, how would later generations know that something dangerous is nearby? Well, in Fallout, the Department of Energy came up with a solution: make massive concrete spikes in the ground. We can see this in the Fallout 76 location, the Federal Disposal Field HZ-21. As described in the location's terminal, the hope was that these intimidating pillars would induce a sense of dread and future populations would avoid building there. In addition to the spikes, metal engraved pictograms would be installed around the perimeter of the location with the hopes of conveying the message of danger. Opting for pictures instead of worded warnings ensured the message would be understood in the event of any language barrier. Now, if this in any way sounds a bit silly, it's actually inspired by real-world research and will eventually be implemented in the coming years. It started in 1993 when a report from one of the United States National Nuclear Security Administration Research and Development Laboratories, Sandia National Laboratories, or SNL, recommended various ways to communicate the dangers of radioactive waste disposal. SNL provided the following wording as an example of what the messages should evoke. This place is a message and part of a system of messages. Pay attention to it. Sending this message was important to us. We consider ourselves to be a powerful culture. This place is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here. What is here was dangerous and repulsive to us. This message is a warning about danger. The danger is in a particular location. It increases towards a center. The center of danger is here, of a particular size and shape, and below us. The danger is still present in your time as it was in ours. The danger is to the body and it can kill. The form of danger is an emanation of energy. The danger is unleashed only if you substantially disturb this place physically. This place is best shunned and left uninhabited. Now, that's a big message. How would one go about conveying that to a non-native speaker? Well, SNL broke it down into 4 levels of varying complexity. Level 1 is the rudimentary information, something man-made is here. Level 2 is the cautionary information, something man-made is here and it is dangerous. Level 3 is the basic information, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Level 4 is the complex information, highly detailed written records, tables, figures, graphs, maps, and diagrams. The Level 2, 3, and 4 messages were proposed to be translated to every UN written language, and in 1994, copies of French, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, and Navajo were made, with plans to continue testing and revising the original English text, along with more translations. Well, in 10,000 years, there's also a chance that these written languages will have died out, as it's not uncommon for that to happen, especially over such a long time frame. How can this warning message be conveyed using non-verbal, non-written language? Well, in addition to written texts, the use of hostile architecture was proposed as a way to convey the concept of the dangers below. Hostile architecture is the design strategy that uses structural elements to guide or restrict behavior. A common example is using spikes or armrests to deter people from either sitting or laying down in a certain area. While armrests certainly wouldn't stop people from making buildings atop a radioactive waste reserve, spikes will likely do the trick. The Sandia report suggested 7 designs. The first was called the landscape of thorns, a mass of many irregularly sized spikes protruding from the ground in all directions. The second was the spike field. This is what the Fallout's Department of Energy implemented at the Federal Disposal Site HZ-21. The third is spikes bursting through grid. This is similar to the spike field, but more orderly. Next is called menacing earthworks. Large mounds of earth were to be shaped like lightning bolts in a square pattern. The bolts would be visible from the air or from nearby hills. After that is the black hole, an enormous slab of basalt where black dyed concrete would be poured over top the site. Then there was rubble landscape. A big pile of dynamited rock would be put on top of the site, giving a sense that something was destroyed. And lastly was forbidding blocks. This one's pretty creepy to me, but essentially an array of house-sized concrete blocks would be placed over the site. The intention was to create a network of streets that would lead nowhere and feel ominous. The hope was that the combination of written warnings and physical ones would deter any civilization for up to 10,000 years, mind you, from setting up shop over an ancient waste disposal site, kinda like a sad sci-fi ancient burial ground. While the Sandia report report was published nearly 30 years ago. The recommendations in it will likely be put into practice pretty soon. The Waste Isolation Pilot Plant, or WIPP, is the current disposal location for the United States Remote Handled Transuranic Waste, or RHTRUW. Gotta love acronyms. RHTRUW is the big bad nuclear waste that first comes to mind when thinking of nuclear waste. The waste is stored in a cavernous mine over 2,000 feet below the Earth's surface. When the cave fills up with radioactive rubbish in the next 10 to 20 years, the current plan is to seal it off with 13 layers of concrete and soil, and then implement a combination of written warnings and hostile architecture like what the Sandia report recommended. A not-to-scale conceptual design features 32 25-foot-tall granite pillars built in a 4 miles square. The pillars would then surround a 33-foot-tall, 100-foot-wide earthen wall. Inside that is another 16 granite pillars, and at the very center will be a roofless, 15-foot granite room providing all the written information etched into the slabs and walls. Pretty impressive, huh? While the fallout location might seem silly or confusing just seeing these random spikes pop out of the ground, it's actually inspired by real-life research and events. How cool is that? And that's all I have for today. If you learned something new, leave a like, comment, or a sub. Let me know if you want to hear more about the real-life inspirations Fallout takes from. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
Oh no, I'm just a deputy, and I can't be a deputy without a sheriff. It's called chain of command.